Alright, so now that we have had a chance to kind of start into Chapter 6 and this development of the periodic table, we're going to do a little activity today called a Jigsaw.
My name is Brian Clawson. I'm a teacher of chemistry and AP chemistry, and I've been teaching for 11 years.
Just like a puzzle, has many, many pieces, so does a reading. And you guys are going to be responsible for pieces of a reading as we go through something today. So we're going to do something called the History of the Periodic Table. It's about a 5-6 page little packet. It's got a bunch of different little segments of readings here that we go through. And what we're going to kind of do is this. You're all going to get this packet once we go back to the lab area here. You're going to do this jigsaw activity that requires you to become experts for a segment of the article. So each one of these packets is labeled with a number 1 through 5. You're going to get in your lab groups here in a few moments. I'm going to have you count off. And I'm going to have everybody that is number 1 go back to the first lab station. Number 2 is the second. Group, packet number 3, unfortunately, is lab group 4, 5, and so forth. And what you're going to do is basically this. You're going to be responsible for everybody reading the first part, which is the history of the periodic table. It's the first page, and that's it. Everybody has to read that. Only because we've kind of already started covering that. If you are group number 1, you will be reading where it says the early years and the law of triads. Now all the packets are already highlighted for the section that you are responsible for reading. So you will only be responsible for that. So if you were group 1, I'm only going to use these guys as the example. You're going to read the history of the periodic table on the first page. You are then going to read the next 2 segments. Some groups only have 1 segment to read, some groups have 2, depending on the length of them. You are going to become experts for the section that you are assigned. You need to read it at least twice. And don't do a speed read, take your time, go through it, figure out exactly what the author is trying to convey about the history of the periodic table with the early years and say the law of triads. So that's the first group. The second group, you're going to be reading the section that's called the first periodic table and the law of octaves. If you're in group 3, you'll be reading Mendeleev's periodic table. Group 4, you'll be looking at the discovery of noble gases and atomic structure, as well as the periodic table. And then group 5, you'll be reading the modern periodic table. All of these are fairly comparable in length. One of them might tend to be a little bit shorter, even though you have 2 segments to read. So what I would like you guys to do right now is go ahead and get into your lab groups. Whether you want to do it back at the lab stations, you want to stay up front right now, that's fine. But I need you guys to get into your lab groups.
I have to be honest, when I started the Jigsaw, I thought, I'm going to have to re-go over this material that we're going to do. So I found a reading that worked fairly well. I just found kind of a generic reading, and I modified it. I took the reading, I added the pieces that were really critical. So we did it on the development of the periodic table, and there's a couple of key players that have a lot of information that we would usually talk about. And I found that by doing this particular way, I took what normally would have taken like 2 or 3 days to go through, and we were able to do it in 1 class period. So the reading had to be kind of at a level that was appropriate for the high school students, but not overly complicated to the point that they had more questions than they were able to come up with the answers. So by giving them a reading that was more age appropriate for the high school students, they were able to take that information, come up with the main key points behind it, and it would have been the exact same stuff that I would have taught them via the, using a PowerPoint or going through the lecture material on it.
So when you come back here, you are going to read the first page. Everybody reads that. Then you are going to read your assigned section that's highlighted. Okay? After you have read it twice, take your time on it, you will need a piece of paper and a pencil. You are going to write down at minimum, 5 key items from the section that you read. Okay? Further instructions will come as we go through this. All right, so you guys may be dismissed back here at the lab.
The beautiful thing about Jigsaw is that it saves class time and also empowers students to become masters of your content. For this particular Jigsaw, Mr. Clawson took an article that would have taken approximately 45 minutes to get through individually and cut total reading time for each group down to around 10 minutes. Then, each student gets the opportunity to become a peer-to-peer teacher and share the most important points from their reading. It's a win-win situation.
It looks like quite a few of these items written down, definitely more than 5, which is excellent to see. Give you about another 2 minutes or so for those of you that are still jotting down some ideas. Okay, try to finish up the thought that you're on. After you have that, don't go anywhere just yet. Now I would like you in your individual packet groups discuss these key points. I would like to see what's the same and what you guys found different. Now, ultimately, you're going to go back to your groups and you're going to present your findings, what you came up with your main points. But I've seen a lot of different answers so far. Some people have quite a few, some people have right around 6 or 7. But let's get the gist of it. Let's get those key points. Let you guys take about 3 or 4 minutes here and discuss those amongst yourselves before I have you go back to your groups.
So the key point was in the 20th century, the final changes to the periodic table were made by American Glenn Seaborg.
He discovered elements 92 through 102, the transuranic elements.
Right, so everything had something on Seaborg. Just like it's element 106 named after him, Seaborgian.
Hydrogen and helium at the top is an unresolved issue.
1941, discovered plutonium.
Okay, I like the things that you guys all have in agreement here. I don't think I saw too many things that were different on yours. You guys all look pretty good, so.
First thing I would say is make sure you're comfortable with the article. Make sure that that article works for what you want to cover. So, like I said, I had to modify my article a little bit to make sure that it had all of the key points that I had in it. But make sure that you feel that that article is appropriate for their age level. Feel that the article is appropriate for the message that you want to convey, the lesson that you want. And then make sure you give the kids time to kind of own that. You don't want an article that you're holding a kid responsible for to become an expert on to be too lengthy. I found it easier to find something that was kind of I won't say short, but like a medium-sized passage that they were going to be responsible for. And I had them write down the main points after they had read the article at least twice, and not a speed read. It was a take your time, read through it, make sure that you're comfortable with it. And then I had them kind of write down these anywhere from 5 to 10 bulleted items or listed items that kind of shared the key points for it. And then what I found worked very well is rather than have the kids kind of report back to their groups and be the experts immediately, I had the experts of the same passages stick together first. And I had them discuss, because some people had 8 maybe, some people had 10, some people had 5. So there was a wide range of different kind of expert knowledge at that point. So they were able to kind of condense their list to between 5 to 8 different main points. And out of a medium reading, that seems to be pretty adequate. If it was a more lengthier reading, I might have held them to a higher standard of coming up with 10 to 12 different points. But 5 to 8 different points seemed to work very well. The experts then made sure that they felt comfortable with it before they went back to their main groups and discussed the material and presented those 5 to 8 groups and taught the rest of their group their material.
All right, awesome. I heard some great things there. I heard some things that were definitely the same. Even the numbers that, some people had quite a few, the items kind of all flow together very, very nicely. Okay. Now, you have a choice on how you want to do this next part, but you are going to now get back into your lab groups. Everybody should have a representative of basically 1 through 5 packet reading. You can either stay back here and go to your lab stations where you would normally work during lab day, or you can sit back up front, whatever floats your boat and makes you happy. You will be responsible then for coming up with a list of 30 total items that encompass everything from the first reading all the way to the end reading. Now, as you go through this isn't just let's stay these and write them down. Discuss them, talk about what exactly they kind of meant, why was it maybe that you chose that was important, or is it even important and you just wrote it down, okay? So you guys can either go up front or you can stay back here at the lab stations. Okay, go for it.
Our secondary students should be reading for between 90 and 120 minutes every day. To hit this number, we need help from every content area teacher. Asking your kids to expert Jigsaw read articles, excerpts, and primary source documents is a great way to chip away at this goal. And the teaching and sharing out the students do after the fact is a wonderful strategy to deeply engage your students in a meaningful way. If you haven't yet tried an expert Jigsaw read, I cannot recommend it strongly enough. Your students and you will love it.